So I'm out here doing the yard work, doing the things around the property that need to get done that we probably all need to be doing. And I got to thinking about a couple of things that I wanted to share with you all here because one of the main reasons I moved to North Dakota, out into the middle of nowhere, got some land, some property, and some privacy in the process was because people are the number one threat in any SHTF scenario. And as we near closer to an SHTF environment, people are going to become more and more dangerous. People are inherently dangerous, and the more desperate they become, the more unhinged they will be, and the more likely they are to commit heinous acts. And this is one of the reasons why I got myself some space. But while thinking about that, while considering that, you also need to keep in mind that there's a twist to this conversation, which is you also need people in order to survive and thrive post-SHTF environment. I went out today with one of the local guys that I know that I'm trying to build a network with and helped him grab an old stove to improve his preps. Now, this wasn't something that necessarily had anything in it for me, but it did help somebody in my local community become more prepared, which in a way helps me be more prepared because that's one more person who is a more hardened target that has the ability to produce heat during the cold winter months and won't be needing assistance in a long-term SHTF scenario. It also just helps build our relationship while, understanding the idea that we can rely on each other. But by doing so, I also stepped on a nail during that process. So, there was a little bit of a negative there, but it kind of reminded me of this whole thing. We need people just as much as we don't need people, right? People are very dangerous, and having more around is going to lead to more problems. But without people, we can't get things done. He could not have picked up that gigantic antique wood stove by himself. He needed somebody else to help him lift it into the back of his truck. I was there to help him out. We made it happen, even post nail in my foot. But without my help, he couldn't have gotten the stove, which means he would have been less prepared, which means he might not have been able to keep his family warm during the winter months if the power goes out. So these are things we have to consider. Building community is huge right now. We need people. We have power and strength in numbers. And yet people are also the main thing we have to prepare for and the main reason why we should be concerned about the direction our country's going in. Because those desperate, unhinged human beings are the ones who are going to cause us the most problems in any SHTF disaster event. Besides being in the immediate impact area of an asteroid or a nuclear bomb or something along those lines, people are going to be the problem. Even in a prolonged SHTF disaster, like what we're facing right now in the United States, where the economy is slowly spiraling down the toilet, and eventually people are going to become more and more desperate to the point where they start doing heinous things because of that desperation, even in that environment, they are still the number one threat. So that's why we need to not only build community, we also need to understand that the other people outside of it are a problem, and we need to be aware of what they are capable of. And it's another reason why we do train with things like firearms and why we get stuff like body armor and why we practice the ideas and philosophies of self-defense, because people are the problem. A lot of people have a hard time grasping that concept, and then because some people hyper-focus on other people being the problem, they exclude outsiders from within their inner circle, which then limits their ability to be better prepared. If my friend 30 minutes away from me can make bread during a disaster scenario, and then I start raising a herd of goats, we can trade and have a more balanced meal. But without each other, suddenly one of us only eats bread and the only thing I eat is goats, and then basically we turn into weird human beings that have terrible diets. But that is just what this whole dichotomy is. We need people just as much as we don't want to be around people. And it is something we have to keep in mind. But I don't want you to forget for a second that yes, people are definitely the most dangerous part of any SHTF environment. But you better be doing what you can right now to establish some networks and community, because when the balloon goes up, you're not going to have a chance to do that any longer, and anyone else who already has a community is going to consider you a threat because of that built-in concept that people are dangerous. And that is going to put you in more danger than if you would have already had a community built up and you had the strength in numbers to deter anything from, let's just say, an outside force that might not allow you to operate in the way that you see fit. This is a good reminder. I wanted to have this conversation. Plus, I just needed to take a break real quick from doing all the work around the property, and I hope this gave you something to think about. If you need anything else from me, go to magicprepper.com, and that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.